side of fishing, not himself, and that's the good bit about him.
Yeah.
You know, I like that. Anyway, sorry.
Guys, welcome back to the Always Carpfishing podcast. I'm once again joined by Mr. Lewis Porter, Harry Charrington, Scott Day, and the man to my right is the legend that is Ian Chillcott. And today we are diving into the mind and life of Chili. We're going to be putting some questions to him from the team here and the questions from the syndicate. So, we'll kick things off, I think, with Mr. Day on your questions to Chili.
How did it all start?
How did it all start? Well, I'm lucky. I come from just south of Bristol, and I had no idea other than Walker's book, Stillwater Angling, that carp existed. But all of my life, and I've still got a copy of that book, and if you look, those pages of which were carp, and then the next chapter was called Big Carp. They're just, you can see the only things that were looked at. But I fished for everything.
So, it didn't start with just carp.
No, not at all. I mean, the nearest I got to carp really as a kid before I joined the army was on the Kennet and Avon Canal, and they used to see them bombing up and down. But I used to look at a carp and think I'd never catch it. That was how it left me. And when I got to Aldershot in 1978, I was fishing a local water there for the Crucians. I used to go down with my little centre pin and go and sit in this little corner. You could always mainly bag a couple. I could only go on a Wednesday afternoon, sports afternoon. There's so much going on in the army. I had so little time. And I caught 2 mirror carp one day on very light gear, and it was just, that's when the switch was flipped over. And
to be fair, back then carp fishing wasn't what it is now.
No, not at all. And I think one of the biggest jumps was Yatesy catching that fish from that 50-pounder from Redmar. I think that was another one that bolstered it. And obviously the hair rig. And it changed everything. Those first 2 carp I caught were caught on just a tiny, tiny little bit of crust that sank slowly through the water underneath my little float. And they took it. But, the hair rig changed everything, didn't it, really? It went from getting maybe 4 or 5 carp a season to getting 4 or 5 carp every trip. So, that's where it started. It started in Aldershot.
But before the carp fishing, where did it start? How did you get into fishing originally?
Right,
was it with friends?
My family, we used to go to, we had a caravan down in Beer in Devon, which is a truly wonderful place. And unfortunately, they've concreted up the rocks at the left-hand end of the beach. And I used to go up there, I used to swim across to one rod, with me rod in my hand, it was a solid glass thing. My mum bought it for me in this shop, and a little centre pin reel on it. And I'd get out to the 3rd rock, which you weren't allowed, they all tell you not to do it. I was only, 5 or 6 years old. My mum stood there screaming her head off, and I'm running around trying to catch little ballon wrasse on. You get the limpets off the rocks, stick them on and catch them. Ballon wrasse. Oh, sorry, ballon wrasse. I'm all over the gaff. I'm swinging. I'm getting all excited again. I've got to hold this damn thing here.
So I actually started sea fishing.
I started, sea fishing, yeah. And I remember down here, but I'm not going to tell you the full story because it gets a bit rude at the end. But I, from the wrasse, I used to go out in the boats. You catch loads of the mackerel and that. I stowed away on. They were doing a deep sea one, and I got out the caravan about 5 o'clock in the morning, went all the way down the hill onto the beach, and I hid in the bow of the boat. And when they sailed out halfway out, I got out of the boat. I thought, well, you ain't going to go back. I had a big pair at 10 years old, I'll tell you. And I'd go out there and catch. You didn't get a lot of them, but you get a lot of small conger and pouting and dogfish and all that sort of stuff. And I loved everything. I loved everything about it. And everything from that point on was either a gun given to me as a present, like a big machine gun thing or a Johnny 7 whatever, and or a fishing tackle. And as a child, I used to jump out of my bedroom window. I busted up my leg a couple of times doing it, holding on to all 4 corners of a sheet, trying to be a paratrooper. I'd read about it in the books. My mother used to just give up, really. I was just not very well as a kid. And And I never went to school. I went fishing mainly to catch trout to sell to my neighbours. And my grandmother used to give me a heap of money as well for filling up the panniers on my bike with horse poo, so she could put it on her roses. So that's how my life started. And unbelievably, as we sit here now, I did 22 years with parachute pay in my pocket, and I've made a living from going fishing. So yeah.
And you progressed from a sheet out your bedroom window to a proper
Yeah,
piece
I was glad I never jumped out of a C-130 at about 700 feet holding onto a sheet. That's probably one of the greatest moves I ever made. Yeah, good tactic. But yeah, and I think all that learning that I did as a child, nobody in my family went fishing.
Okay.
Nobody. My father used to turn his back on me when I talked about it. He didn't want nothing to do with it. And my mum, bless her heart, used to buy me all the tackle and everything. And she used to take me out in the little boat. She'd go out in a little jug boat. And I got this rod, and I don't know. They bought me this big deep sea rod. The first time I ever used it was a Mitchell 624 on it, and I found that reel. The story behind that reel is unreal. Does that make sense? Yeah. And they had this Olympus carp rod, and the first time I ever used it, sat on the bow of a boat down in Plymouth. I had my biggest conger at the time, of 37 pounds. And I joined the British Sea Anglers Club, the British Conger Club it's called, and I still have the badge in my little thing at home, and I was 13 years old. So yeah, it's fishing for everything I could, mainly trout in the end because I could sell them to my neighbours and make money, and that was how it all started.
I guess you say it's in the blood because most of us, I'll speak for myself, had somebody that took us. My dad, my granddad, that kind of thing. Somebody to influence you to make to make you go. But if you didn't really have that person to make you go, then it was obviously just there, isn't it?
It's in my system. It's part of my thing. I mean, I've not. People sort of say, it's because you got the hunting instinct. I mean, I've never shot anything unless I'm going to eat it for a kick-off, and I don't class myself when I'm fishing as a hunter because I'm going to put the damn thing back.
Does that include when you were a para?
What?
You didn't shoot anything you were going to eat it?
I don't think we better go there. Yeah, we'll try and leave that out of the question. No, if you like. But no, it's it is part of my makeup, and I like, just love it. Every time I go, I just, it ain't just about fishing.
No.
It's about everything about it. And I think that if that ever died, if I didn't want to see, was it down? We know a lake where a bittern made a nest, don't we? Yeah, I mean, to know that you're fishing a lake with a bittern on it, we're not ever going to tell you where it is. It to me is utterly amazing. I had to hear it shriek, sort of call in the morning. I was just blown away by it, and I think that for me personally was better than catching a carp on that trip. So. But I did catch one, by the way, so I got two.
Of course. Fair play. Mega. Lou, what would you put to Chili as a question, mate?
Well, mine's a little bit more light-hearted.
Mine was romantic.
Romantic, yeah. Mine is a would you rather. So, would you rather your PB carp to be an import caught casting and spodding, or a UK homebred caught using a bait boat and a drone?
Ouch.
Oh, right, okay.
It's like chuck a grenade.
I think probably the two most impossible things that I would ever do in my life, knowingly. So yeah, I remember going somewhere, I'm not going to say, some of you were involved in it, to a lake that is full of foreign fish. And on that particular trip, I cast out 2 leads and with no hook links on or anything, and looked like I was fishing, and I didn't put a hook back out because I don't want to catch one. And when I can make the effort not to catch a foreign fish, I won't. But yeah, I don't want to catch foreign fish, and I do not want to.
You have to answer the question, Chili.
Which one?
A or B?
Well, I think I'd probably hung myself before I did either of them. I don't know. I simply, if I knew what I was doing, I wouldn't do it.
Okay, I'll give you a third option, or retire from fishing.
If they were my only options left, I wouldn't be a fisherman. Well, I would. I'd go chub fishing on the river or something. I'd go and catch some barbel. I don't know. I'd do something bad. I can, Louis. You know that I couldn't do either of those things.
But you said about the bit of the fundamentals of angling, the casting, the talking to your lead, the fishing, the being there, and all that kind of thing. Well, surely that would just mean you'd just catch a foreign one. Because you'd still enjoy all those bits about your angling, regardless of what ended up in your landing net. You'd still enjoy everything else about it.
This day and age, it
don't really make any difference.
I think those sort of foreign ones, those foreign imports, this day and age are beginning to be a sort of dying breed because we've got such good quality fish coming through.
Yeah, in this, I mean, I've known Viv for years, and Simon, great people, and they're doing a wonderful thing. I think they've planted a bug in it, haven't they? That everybody wants to get on board in it. And look what Simo did with his fish. I mean, I have a massive amount of respect. As mad as a hatter as he is, what he did in the early 2000s, he stopped what was going to become a flow of foreign fish into this country with the old Simos that got into the lakes, and I thank him unreservedly for what he did, but
I think you should give more credit to John Patton and Fisher's Pond than Simo. He was just
he
was just a distributor of said fish.
Yeah, and that's where it really
just a middleman.
Yeah,
just a middleman.
Yeah, John Patton is the
just took the money and run.
Yeah. It's I mentioned nobody knows John, do they? I mean, Simo comes from Mark Simmons. That's why you talk that way. But at the end of the day, when I go fishing, I love the environment. That is all a massive part of it. I want to catch a carp. I'm putting the effort in.
So I'm going to answer that question for you then.
Yeah.
You just go fishing, enjoy it, and if it was a foreign one that ended in your net, a foreign one, as we say, then that would be the one. Rather than use the bait boat.
Rather than use a bait boat.
There you go.
Okay.
Can we go that way?
Yeah,
we have done.
Yeah, that's fine.
There you are.
What would you say if I got a club out of my carp kick?
And you don't even have to have a picture of it. You can just unhook it and put it back. You've done it, haven't you?
I know. But
that was a rather timid would you rather. Much worse ones come from
it was. Yeah. If we called up pictures now,
my God.
you get something totally different from that.
Pink or brown chili.
For the love of God.
That's been clipped up.
Hook baits chili. Hook baits, obviously.
Well, he's honestly about match the hatch, haven't he?
It's just saying match the hatch or fluoro, pink or brown.
Yeah, that's all it was. Yeah. Moving on to Harry, what would you put to chili, man?
Okay, so in the, let's say, 10 years post the hair rig, was carp fishing easier then than it is now?
No.
Why?
Because there were so few carp around. What the hair rig did was to make people stock carp. It was hard to find places with carp in. There were a few match fisheries who decided that they could do that in the late 70s, I think. But there still weren't a plethora of fish around. I mean, you get to the mid-90s and we're talking 15 years on from when the hair rig was created. You still only had just a handful of waters in the whole country that had a 40-pounder in them. Then there weren't places, I suppose there were the odd place. Willow Park, just up the road from me, has always had a lot of carp in it, but they used to match fish on it. That's why they were in there. And once they got too big to land on a 2-ounce bottom or whatever they're doing, they had to move on. And, so those carp stayed there. Yeah, I mean, carp fishing was hard before that.
But do you think the carp themselves were easier to catch with there being less pressure? Nowhere near the sort of
I mean, you
pressure.
get with murder with fish because you could stand there throwing bits of bread in and they come out. I remember over at Frimley, in the corner of pit 4, where the people should come over the bridge and feed the swans with their kids. Well, the best thing to do straight after that was get over there with a bit of floating crust. And because you could see the swans fighting with the carp all the time, who's going to get the most, and so they were easier to catch back then. But I don't think there's no similarity between the two, and there's no similarity between the people now, because those guys that did it were slightly off their rocker, people would say, because of the way that they fished. I mean, I did it. I didn't have a bed chair until 1994. I used to sleep as a soldier. I used to go I had a Gore-Tex cover on my sleeping bag, and I had a hoop at the top and a massive big hood. I could shove all my gear in there. I had a massive unhooking mat, put that underneath it, and that's how I used to sleep all the time. And see all these people with these canvas thingies up and all that, and I thought, if I wanted to move, I couldn't. You take you half an hour to pack up, and I wanted. If they started showing over there, then I could just pull a couple of pegs out, and I was gone.
About 2003, 2004, I joined a lake in the Nene Valley, and I met an ex-army guy, and he didn't have a bed chair. And I was like, "You haven't got a bed chair?" He went, "Oh, I was in the army. I don't need a bed chair. I sleep on the unhooking mat." And I thought, yeah, but you could have a bed chair now. and then I clocked a case of 24 Stella, and I thought, okay, now I know how you can sleep on the floor.
He's got somewhere to lie unconscious for a few hours. Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, when I did get one, I've got a photograph of it at home with my dog, the old Great Dane, asleep on it. When I got one, I kicked myself in the ass. I'm like, why didn't you want one of these things? It was a little bit more. It was the Fox ones with the where you thread the
elastic all
around the outside. I mean, they were sort of, if you had one of those, you were like the bee's knees, evidently. And I was on a little syndicate up at Farnborough, Pit 5 up there, which still exists to some extent, a very, very intimate little water. And the reason, I went there, it was a place where you'd catch 1 or 2 fish in a year. It was good. And the first winter, that was when I got a ticket for it, I went over, slept on the floor up there on these little runs that used to go out where they dug the gravel pit in lines. And I used to go up and sleep on the floor, and I could get my rods in all the, everybody was wanted to go and swim and look the business with all their gear up. And I think the time you look the business when you're carp fishing is when you're holding up a carp, when you've caught it. And it doesn't, as long as you ain't stretched the thing too far and fished in silly places, and it caught me loads of fish. But I have to say, getting a bed chair was a really, really good thing. And it was a Fox bed chair.
Can I ask another question?
You can ask as many as you like,
a bit
Louis.
more of a serious one, because this was my serious question that I'd thought about prior to this podcast. If you could travel back in time from the moment, from today to when the day you first started carp fishing, which period, if that was a period that you lived in for the rest of your life now, which decade would you choose in terms of carp fishing?
It would be a 10-year period within 2 decades, which would be 95 to 2005. I can't really say it without saying 2007 was a very, very important year for me. But if I could pick a period when carp fishing was it just blew your mind. I couldn't do enough of it. And, 95, and you've got to remember, it's not all about what we were fishing for and whatever. It's the people I met along the way. I went down the lake one day, and I'd just been out. We'd done a 15-miler on the South Downs, so I'm pretty knackered. I've got the same gear on, but I picked my gear up from the office in the barracks, drove up to the lake, and there was a guy around the corner from me, and all I could see was lights and noise and music. And I'm thinking, what is going on here? And I will never say a bad word about him. God rest his soul. And I loved him more than my wife is the only person I've ever loved more than him, was Keith Jenkins. in day-glow clothing with cooking equipment that would blow your mind. He had little salt pots that some dickhead down there, and he is a dickhead, I hope he's watching this and he'll remember, reported Keith for having drug equipment in his bivvy because he thought these things were... But Keith used to cook these amazing meals, and he'd come down, I'd still be sleeping on the floor. And he'd come down and we'd just sit there into the small hours talking rubbish. And of course, the following season, I met Laney, Chrissy Pearson, who was an amazing man around that time, and little Robbie Stoddart again, who's passed away, and bless his heart. And knowing Dave and watching Dave fishing was like unreal. He still is an unbelievable guy now, but it ain't the same situation anymore.
Do you think he's the best that you fished with?
I'd say by some considerable margin, the best angler I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah,
unreal. He's one of those guys you think was probably a carp in a before life or something, because he's a fish magnet. One of the greatest days I've ever had by the side of a lake was I took the photographs when he caught the black mirror. And Jesus, the things that he did, when the story that led up to the night that he caught it was just enough to blow your mind. And Dave, I used to move a bit. Dave was just incredible. I mean, he did 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. When we went down to Conninbrook, this is 2003, I think, something like that. And Dave was just running around. He had a little shopping trolley thing. You see the old ladies go along with the little zip up sort of tartan bag on it. He had one of those, and he's got his gear in it, his rodders in his hand, and he used to roll a little smoke in those days, and he's running around the lake, just going around the lake, and he'd left all his smoking gear with me. So I had to roll it up for him, and he'd come past, smash it, and off he'd go. And I think it'll slow him down in a minute. No, he just got worse and worse. And he used to go like crazy, And I think the story of him catching the big one just made me chortle, because I know how much work he would have put into it, where the water was coming into the lake, and he was shoveling in mud to try and get it all going. And he just caught one on a rod. He just hammered out into the middle of the lake. And I think it was a question that answered some of that answered a lot of questions for people. He never got caught in the edge, and there's one incredible angler that fished there. I won't mention him. He's a very, very wealthy man. He's just a perfect guy, and he always fished in the edge. Caught everything in the lake about 10 times and never caught the big one, and people were reeling it in from the middle of the lake, which was, if you concentrate on what other people are doing, you normally get the key to the answers to your question. But what were we talking about?
We were talking about Laney just then, and then
Laney,
era.
So that's the era. I fished a lot with them. I mean, we went up to Manor in Oxford. It was a day ticket, but hadn't been. That I've got the photographs of me. I think I caught a fish called the peanut fish, and you can see the gravel workings up the side there, and. That was an amazing thing. I caught a fish out of there of 31 pounds. Nobody had ever seen it before, and they never saw it again after, and never got caught again. And I'll never know why. I caught what's it called, the birthmark linear?
Yeah.
I think, and they were shoveling gravel over the gravel thing. And I could see all the water was all murky right up the far end of the lake. So I just packed everything on the barrow, up round I went, cast out. I had that I put about 50 boilies around what I'd done into the murky water. I had that linear, and then I had a little later on that 31-pound mirror. And it was a stunning fish as well.
I've heard many stories from your linear days from Keith Moores when he was the bailiff at Linear, and he used to catch yourself and the others sort of fishing where you shouldn't be fishing and that. And he said, but the nucleus of anglers then, he said there was such a good bunch of people to be around, and he said I really thoroughly enjoyed bailiffing those days and mixing with those anglers. He told me quite a few other stories as well, of people running off in early hours of the morning from the out of bounds and things like that, but from his own words,
was that you, Chilly?
The best one, right? What he used to do, on the left hand bank they had a conveyor belt that went up the side of it, and you could get over the fence, and you go and you walk all the way up there, and then that's where the gravel went up and around the lake. So you'd get to the top, and if you get there very, very early in the morning, you could see fish, and you're doing the do. But I've taken a rod up there one day. I thought, right, what I'll do, I was going to do 2 rods actually, but I did one first of all, and I went round, I climbed up on top of the thing, and there's about 10 of them down the bottom, and I knew that like there was cut-tail there, Popeye here, and a couple of other fish I knew from there. And I think, I'll give this a go. And I stood up, and the whole bank just went. And I'm going down the thing, and I sort of nearly landed on Popeye's head, I think. And then that was that game over, and that was about 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
just after first light or whatever. But yeah, Keith knew what was going on.
That was a
there.
fair mountain of gravel back then as well. That was quite high.
Thankfully, it was quite compact. I would imagine. I just got the surface there. I could have got caught in a bloody avalanche or something. I don't know, but
Yeah.
So that big mound of gravel, that was a long way away. I know Bart, when he used to fish there when he was about 15, 16.
Peg
He
one
used
and
to, and
two and that.
everyone used to obviously like cheat and walk round into the outbounds, drop it off the edge. He used to put a PVA stick on, cast it from the road
Into the
bank
gravel.
onto the gravel. And just drag it in. And that, bearing in mind he was like 15, 16, 17, it
was a big
about
shot down there. You
160 yards, something like that.
I would have thought that, getting on that way. But that was the thing.
Monster
What you
cast.
did, there was 2 little bars, and you could see in the works bank gravel, it would come out like that and into a bay, and then then it would go off, running off that way, and just off that bar were 2 sort of. Off the gravel slope were 2 bars that ran out into the lake, and it sort of made a little corral that the carp used to just sit in it, thinking they were out of bounds, and you just muller them out there. I mean, the things we did to get there, I mean, yes, you could cheat and you could do that, but casting, and to me, it was a wonderful period of how am I going to cast that far? You know what I mean? And what am I going to use to do it? And we all the different leader materials and all that. They weren't hanging on a shelf in a shop, and you had to think your way around it. And I loved things like that. You know what I mean? And I loved. We made some rods at Fox. This is 2006 or something, and Max Cottis was doing it, and we made this ridiculous rod up where I could cast miles, and I've got photos of them. They were green, I think, with brown handles. They just weren't going to be very popular, I don't think, because they weren't that carpy grey colour, you know what I mean? And I took them to Mercer's Park with 17-pound braid. I forget who used to make the braid, and I've got no idea how it worked, but you were only allowed to use 4-ounce leads.
Probably Berkeley Whiplash, I guess.
Yes, that was it. That was it, the whiplash. And what I used to do is get a cord of lead. Sorry, it's recorded, mate. And I used to fucking get the ones that were really thick, and I'd get the 4.5-ounce ones, so you couldn't read the number on the side of the lead. They were the best leads to use, so I used to take them down there. I got photographs of me casting. I think Matt Woods was doing it for Crafty Carper down there then. And 17-pound braid, no leader, no nothing, and I just absolutely mullered that everywhere, and it was incredible. You learned so much when things weren't hanging on the shelf, and to me that was why that era was such a wonderful thing. And you saw carp fishing growing, and I might sit down and moan about some of the things, and I do, but I caught a fish in 1996, and it sort of changed my universe completely, and everybody wanted me to write for them, and I found out I could write, and even that used to annoy me, because people who were writing for magazines, a lot of them were written by one person in the company that they were, and then the articles never got written by the person who was doing it. They were written by other people. And people like Laney, you read things that he writes, Jesus Christ, you just disappear into the pages. And I loved reading about it and not seeing people advertising themselves first and foremost, then advertising some gear. And then they get a deal the following year, don't they? And they change over and say, "Oh, that'll do. Yeah, this is the best tackle I've ever used." But anyway, that's another story. That's another story.
I've got a few questions from the guys over at the syndicate, but I just wanted to put mine to you first. It was something I read, an article. For me as carp anglers, one thing I think we're all quite passionate about is food on the bank. And I remember reading an article that you, with food, you saw it as a fuel to help you go carp fishing. It wasn't about, oh, I can't wait to eat that tonight or that tonight. It was just a fuel. I'm guessing that's from the military mind.
Yeah.
And has that now changed over the years? Are you now more appreciative? Do you look forward to food on the bank now as opposed to it's just fuel again?
I do not look forward to food on the bank.
Seriously?
I think it's a complete and utter waste of time.
Wow.
And I'll tell you a little reason why in a second, but I've always felt that way. Now, army rations were the ideal thing. A little a bag, you can screw it up, put it in your kettle, you get some dumplings and beef stew or something or whatever. They used to do a bolognese, I think, as well. There's several of them. I'll take that out, cut the top off, and with the water I make myself a cup of tea. I don't want cooking implements. I don't want a frying pan in my swim that you have to put in a bag that wipes all the grease on the rest of your stuff and that. I just don't like it. I think that I don't know. I don't.
What
want
is
to
a
carry
typical bankside meal? If I'm fishing next to you and you say, right, Louis, come in my swim, I'll cook dinner tonight. What am I getting? You're getting cooked.
You're getting absolutely bugger all.
So you still see it as just get the calories in to make me do the job in front of me?
Yeah, then I can keep going. My problem now is I can't taste anything.
Right.
Because of what's going on inside my head. Unfortunately, it still is. But the only thing I can taste is burnt chicken skin, chocolate now and again, and Marmite.
That's what you're having in for dinner, Lou, basically.
You'd probably, if you go to Marks and Spencer, they got those little Marmite thingies in the little.
The rice cakes.
That's it. Yeah.
They're
I'll
really
take
good.
a bottle of Marmite with me and put more on. If you saw my toast in the morning, you'd laugh. I put about that much Flora Light on it. I don't know why I do that, but I do. And about that much. It's dribbling off the sides of the toast and everything because I can taste it. I can't taste it to the degree I did before all this started happening in my head. But I don't take anything fishing. I'll probably go somewhere to I don't know. I might pick up some sandwiches and some little sausage things that they have in the garage or something.
From working with you for quite a long time, I think most often you'll have pre-cooked chicken. So like the stuff that you get from a supermarket, either drumsticks or thighs but pre-cooked, and you'll have a pack of beef hula hoops.
Good man, well spotted. They were my favourite. I don't eat them anymore because I can't taste the damn things. You know, all I'm doing is chewing something crunchy that I can't taste. But
surprised you had either of them left with Harry around. It's a staple diet for him.
When you were saying that, I was thinking, is he going to say hula hoops?
Yeah. That's every time. That's what it was.
Yeah. I've just never seen I don't know. I've always felt carrying cooking gear around and the food that's necessary to do it is just going to slow me down when I want to pack up and go over the other side of the lake.
I'm the same when I'm on the bank. I'm rubbish at cooking. Like Scott's laughing because I love going fishing with Scott because he
does it. Yeah, that's why I wanted to go fishing with Keith because I get fed all the time. It was wonderful. But I remember,
I thought it was just for my infectious personality and angling skills you wanted to learn from. You know?
No, it's just the food.
I remember I had my appendix. When was this? From 1995, I think. So I'm still slothing around on the banks, living his life. And a friend of mine drove me up the lake. I've still got the stitches in, right? And he carried a bit of my gear down to the lake. And I'm sort of looking at it's peeing down with rain. There's an easterly wind. And I thought, I've got a fish here. This is good. I can get to this little feature and thought it was all brilliant. And about an hour before dark, I've looked across the lake on the side of this island and I saw about 10 fish. And I didn't have anything to pack up. I had my little thing, but I walked around there and my guts nearly fell out of my side, and I caught 2 carp. But I just think not taking food it can slow you down. It's too much gear. And,
fair play, mate.
That sounds silly, doesn't it?
No,
I don't think it is silly.
No,
it's each to their own, isn't it?
Yeah. It is, absolutely. And you know I won't be nicking any food. Well, I might actually nick some food off you if you bring it. But
sounds good to me.
No.
I'm going to move now on to some of the questions from the guys from the syndicate. I'm going to kick off with a military guy called Kirk Hilton, aka Paris, who's one of the moderators on the group.
I know the name.
Yeah, he's a really great guy. First one he wants to ask is, how do you compare fishing to the army, and is there any transferable skills?
I think there's plenty of them, but it all depends on the type of fishing you want. I spoke about Pit 5 at Farnborough earlier on, and all the guys used to turn up in their new sort of this and their new that, showing off all this gear on the bank, and I used to turn up with my little sleeping bag on the floor, and I could go and fish in areas they couldn't fish. It wasn't like you get to swim and you have to fish from this particular swim. I hate that on a lake. It just takes away all the pleasures of carp fishing in one foul swoop. Swims only, you know. You want to park the reeds, get a couple of rods in there, and do, you know, fish how you want to fish. And I think you'll look at your feet, and you'll see where you're treading, and you don't want to make noises. And these little islands I fished on Pit 5 were like a gravel bar, an exposed bar, and I used to fish over that side where my rods were over that side. So when I snored, which I did a lot in those days, and I smoked, by the way, I nearly burnt my sleeping bag to death because I wouldn't light a cigarette in the open air with the flash of the lighter. I think that all the carp would go at the other end of the lake. So the inside of the bag I was using at the time had about 1 million little burns in it. I was utterly transfixed with camouflage and concealment, noise. To me, the worst thing a carp could ever think of was somebody clomping along the bank next to them. So you
would treat them as the enemy.
Yeah, I wrote an article for Carp World, that was obviously a few years ago, and I had an Armalite rod in my hand. Well, obviously, I've been around the world in a few jungles with an AR-16, and all the way they did it very well about me creeping through the bush with my Armalite, and I was creeping up on a position that I had to OP and look at and all the rest of it, and I pushed the Armalite slightly through the undergrowth, and you turn the page and I dropped the hook bait onto the top of the carp, and he took it. But I do believe that certainly in stalking situations, but again, so few people get that opportunity because they want you to fish from designated swim, no fishing on the surface, and again, it just hacks a massive part of my carp fishing throws it out the window.
I've got a good one here from a guy called Ian Cook, and as we've got Scott sitting right next to it, this could be pretty cool. As many have said, just to sit and listen to Chili is amazing, but my question would be, is there anything Fox no longer do that you would love to see come back into the fold?
Oh my goodness, yes. There's one, and I don't know if I can even talk about it. Right, years and years ago, this is when we were fishing up at Manor.
Freedom to speak, mate. You go full flow. You can say what you want.
Okay.
We're up for it.
I was fishing with Laney a lot. So he put up, and I saw Dave create 2 rigs while he was doing the 360. He created another one, which I'll just mention in a minute. And the 360, in its original form, was done with a size 5 LSC hook.
Well, it was a Series 5 back then that then became
Series
the
5,
LSC.
I remember the series, yeah.
And you could see, you do it with any other rig, anything you could think of at the time. Your little bit of shrink tubing to make sure the hook flips over and all that. Well, I could get one of those in and out of the thing all the time. You do that with a 360. It's so hard to get your hook. You used to have to use a pair of forceps sometimes just to make it steer out in the middle of the thing. So straight off the bat, it was something that looked good. And I didn't use it for a while. And I thought, I didn't want to put all that clunky metal around my hook bait, to be honest with you, for whatever daft reason that was. And he had another rig on the go, and it was all about bending a hook in a certain way. And I don't think he's ever I've never heard him talk about it, but a carp that picked up a hook bait with that attached to it would never ever get away, would never ever be able to blow it out of its mouth if you got it to pick it up. And
Shame Lewis is having a shit, innit?
Yeah.
It's a shame Lewis is having a shit of it all over this 360. I fucking told you.
Well, that's why I'm saying it now.
Yeah, he'll get to it when he watches this back.
It was unbelievable, and I think it's amazing that he never said anything else. But anyway, he gave it to a friend who fished a water where a little runs water up in the Oxfordshire area, and the bloke said he had to just get 4 sets out to get the hook out of the fish's mouth, and it caused so much damage if he was playing it, and Dave just put it in the bin, and that was the end of it.
That's
this is the
second
Wonder rig, the
sort
second
of.
one. The 360 was unreal, and you can see we all do these hand tests and everything, which I think are a load of old doodahs, to be honest with you, because my little bottom bait rig would just slide across my hand, but that isn't a carp's mouth. It isn't surrounded by water in a massive vortex. There's nothing on my hand can tell me about a rig that makes any sense in a real situation. I started using the 360, and I was utterly amazed by the results that I had on it. And I had what I caught a 9-pounder on it one day. I think it was in one of the lakes on the Gately complex. And it had hooked it about 3 times in the bottom lip. It's the first time that had ever happened to me with any rig. And I took it out. I got the rig out. I had to cut the hook and then thread it out the other way, because I don't want to cause it any damage, bless his little soul. And I sort of put it on the back burner. 2 utter idiots in the carp fishing game decided, because they were very jealous of Laney, and that's all it was down to. Everything that happens in carp fishing is because of jealousy, by the way, everything. And they slaughtered him for it, for using it, and it went on and on and on. And in the end, because of public demand, and I've rarely bowed to that kind of thing, I stopped using it. And when I was on Horton at the time. This is 2004 now, I think. Some of the old ones were still in there, and a few that I hadn't caught. I went back there to catch shoulders. That was the whole point of going back. Anyway, I designed this little rig it was a Drennan Continental size 6, and I had some braid that I tied a couple of times up here, and I tied it to a swivel at the bottom. I made it look a little bit like the 360 was why I made it, and I cast it out thinking I'll never catch anything again because I'm not using the 360, and I had a fish called black scale on it, 32 pounder, about 3 hours later, which kind of again told me it doesn't matter what rig you use, you put it in the right place and bait it accordingly, you'll get a bite. But yeah, it was the LSC hook, or Series 5 would be the hook, and I got a feeling when it comes to the 360 rig, it's because of where that eye is situated. How the eye is on that hook is what makes it such a. To me, it don't look. I hate saying it doesn't look right with any other hook.
Right.
To me, it don't look like the real thing. It's an imitation, and I have quite a stack of those hooks at home, I will be honest with you, but because of what I don't want to.
They'll be going to the donkey sanctuary, though, won't they? Then
they probably will. Probably sell them for a few quid then. As well.
I reckon.
As long as it ain't next week.
I've got one from your old mucker here as well, Mr. Keith Moores. He would like to say, simply, can you just ask Chilly to recount his session on Wraysbury 1 with the puncher dinghy and Mary? I had the pleasure of fishing with Ian on a few occasions, and listen to that tale. It is very, very special.
With what?
He's put here the session on Wraysbury 1 with the punctured dinghy and Mary, if that rings any bells.
I'm trying to think. When I lost her in the
something to do with a dinghy that obviously wasn't being blown up.
I had lots of them because unbelievably, I lost Mary twice.
You weren't pulling strokes in dinghies then, no?
You were allowed to have a dinghy.
Oh, so it's no longer pulling
you were
strokes.
allowed to be afloat. They did ban them once, but that didn't
stop
put
you.
anybody off. A life preserver jacket or something. I can't remember, Keith, and I'm really gutted. I can't remember what one we're talking about. I remember, if you want me to talk about Mary.
Losing Mary.
Because
I don't know if you know, Lewis also lost Mary.
Oh yeah, he did.
Tom was just about to land her, wasn't he?
Lewis lost him for Tom.
Tom was playing it, yeah, and
Tom?
I knocked it off with it. Tom Maker.
Tom.
And I knocked it off with a landing net. Yeah.
Iconic bit of video footage
Yeah.
there from the annals. Anyway,
Oh right, yeah, I think I've seen it, haven't I? Anyway, yeah, I fished Wraysbury, and I did, you know, I used to look at all the fish. I thought I don't want to catch Mary. I tell myself I don't want to catch her, and I might catch her, you know. And I put my top of my list was to catch malins, which I think was just such a classic, wonderful looking animal. And 4 weeks into my campaign, I sat up a tree watching Mary all the way along underneath my feet, all the way in Sunnymead's corner. And I climbed every tree and I thought, right, we need to get. She was mouthing the surface all the way along. So I got some mixes out and I thought, well, we'll try. And I put maybe half a dozen on the next sort of gap in the trees, and up she come, boom, 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 boom.
Did you know it was her straight away? You saw
I
it.
was seeing her all day long. I was seeing her underneath my feet, 10 foot underneath my feet. And I can't even remember. I think my heart might have stopped beating for the next hour and a half. But I did it again in the next lot. This time I had a rod ready to go, and I was going to free line it. And I had to get too near the water, I think. I don't know that she just didn't move out a little bit. I put some more mixes out. She ate them in the next one. By this time, I'd put a little controller on, and I whacked it. No, it wasn't a controller. That stuff you used to.
the driftwood.
Driftwood. That's it.
Christ and driftwood.
Yeah.
Harry sounds
that
old
was it.
school now.
Yeah.
And I chucked it out and I moved it in. And she came up and took about 3 or 4 of them and just shied away from it. Not looked like she shied away from it, but I don't think she actually did. She just moved in naturally. And I thought, right, I'm going to run down to the next hole. I'm going to set a trap, and then that's it. I'll have her. It'll all be set and it'll all be done. So I've legged it down, probably another 20 yards down the bank. I put about half a dozen mixers out. I've put my little bit of driftwood out and I've pulled it right in the middle. And I thought, no, it's not near enough. I pulled it up and it landed, the driftwood landed right on her edge. And the water just exploded. Anybody else would have thought that she'd just taken a bait, I would have thought. But I know the wood just hit her on the head and she went off. And I went and climbed the tree up a little bit higher and you could see her out in the middle of Sunnymead's Bay. No wind or anything. About 300 yards across, it was a tiny little island. And of course, where she's going, I'm watching. I looked up and I could see like 3 or 4 backs, glinting off the sun out there. And I thought, God, this is it. I can catch her. And I went and set up anyway. Did it all with me, with the old rowing boat. And in the morning, I had a set of alarms. I won't name them. I don't want to shame people too much. The worst goddamn alarms that start with D I've ever known in my life. All they ever did to me was scream and howl at me. And it was
This was 20 years ago.
Yeah, it was screaming and howling. No, more than that years ago now, isn't it? Screaming and howling at me. I was putting my little ration bags over the top of them, trying to rain not to get into them.
Diters.
It made quite a loud noise. It made a little bit more of a determined noise at 6:30 in the morning. And after a mega battle, there was malins in the bottom of my net, which was just, I was blown away. And to share that moment with Phil Jackson, who was there, and Phil was a remarkable man. A really remarkable man when you think what he caught out of there. It was unbelievable. And he had 80 yards of line on his silly little reel and rods that were broken and glued back together. He was just incredible. But a lovely thing to do. And Phil Jackson, who doesn't live down that way anymore, was there. Yeah, and then I thought I'm never going to catch Mary. I was up in the Dredger Bay. I've made this story a bit too long, haven't I? And I got a bite. This is again early in the morning, and I'm in the Dredger Bay. It was, and the islands. It's just an awful place to. It's good to get a bite from. I always thought, but when they started swimming around these islands, it was a bit of a nightmare. So I got my foot in my boat and I'm pushing it down, and I went out and I got it right away from the island, and you can tell it's a big fish. It's like, and the front of the boat's going. Oh my God, your knees are shaking and everything's going. And she turned on her side on the surface and just went for the corner of the island. And I don't know, I don't think you can ever explain it. When you're fishing 125 acres with 15 known, well, there some people say 20, I think about 15 known carp that lived in it. To know that you've got the biggest one in the lake hanging on the end and it got caught. in just off the edge of the bramble bushes, and I got it up. And unbelievably, the thing that gave way was my lead core leader snapped in half.
No.
And I never, ever used lead core ever again after that moment. I just can't touch the damn stuff.
Can only imagine the sight of a mouth wallowing, pink pop-up hanging out the side.
No, I think it was probably on the plum-flavoured Grange at the time, so a little yellow, browny bait.
Mega. Going on to the last question, mate, and I think I speak for a lot of people. There's a lot of anglers on the syndicate who have drawn a lot.
Can I stop you?
Yeah.
I remember what Keith's talking about, but I'll cut it right down. I promise I'm not
Good.
going to.
He'll be stoked that you remember it because he said it's really special.
Because I had to keep going back and blowing the boat up and everything.
That's the one.
She was on. That was the second time I lost her. Yeah, I had to keep going back, knowing what was on the end of my line again. My boat kept on going down, and I kept on having to go and find side of an island and then blow the damn thing up and then get back. And that was in No Carp Bay, that was. And that went on for hours. And I think
you were attached to the fish while the dinghy was going down?
Yeah, no, I'd have to. You'd get it near to the boat and land in there, and I'm thinking I'm going to die here. And then I'd just literally undo the spool a little bit on the clutch and just get somewhere, claw myself out, having to blow it up, and the thing was going in around me, and I thought, bollocks, I'm going to.
Wow.
Sorry, I thought, bollocks, I'm going to just lift the net around it, and I tried, and she was gone.
Jesus, man.
Unbelievable. I think that went on for, I remember it now. Sorry, Keith. I could have gone into a great deal about that, but it was unbelievable. I was very lucky because I always had this, a lot of guys went out there without life jackets on and stuff like that, but I had what's called a PLP. We used to wear them when we were parachuting, which is a life preserver. I always thought it was quite funny. It could never save your life when the parachute didn't work, but it was called a life preserver.
I thought you meant you was out in the boat with a parachute on you. I thought that's
strange. Dropped in. I have been in boats with parachutes, as that happens. In lots of occasions, jumping into the South Pacific or the Caribbean Ocean out the back of a Hercules. Oh, man,
not much danger seeing Mary there.
Huh?
Not much danger of seeing Mary there.
In the South Pacific, you could call, Mako sharks, you can call them Mary, you call them anything you like. But when you are scrambling out of a boat with about 20 sharks underneath you.
Hail Mary.
And some Australian soldier firing bullets out.
Unbelievable.
Mad days.
Good memories though, mate.
Yeah, good memories. And sorry, Keith, I blew that a little bit.
No, it's good. Again, this is from the guys at the syndicate, and I speak for a lot of them that have posted and mentioned this many a time, that you've given a lot of inspiration, should we say, to a lot of anglers who are going through tough times, personal stuff, and they've drawn a lot of strength from what you've been through. Mark Hawkins is asking, given all that yourself and Lindy have been through, how do you still find the strength when you had those really dark days? What kept you going to get back to where you are now, knowing that I'm going to get back to that lake?
The irony of what you just said is mentioning Lynn's name, and it's very hard for me. Wow, if you knew why I've survived all the things that I have, because of her and the strength that she has. Yeah. She is the most remarkable human being I've ever met in my life, and if ever I needed strength to draw on, she gave me everything I'd ever need, and
Why, mate?
I think when I was in the army, she started getting ill towards the end of it, and the irony of that is she was ill, and I remember going in and seeing my bosses, and they said, look, if you're looking after Lynn, then look after Lynn. If she doesn't need looking after, you go fishing, do whatever you want to do. You've given your pound of flesh to your country. So those last couple of years I spent doing a lot of fishing, but watching her get more and more ill, and because I wrote a lot about my brain tumours and all that, and I just felt that people were getting fed up with it. I had one, used to be a friend of mine, he laughed in Lynn's face when I got the second tumour and said he only does it to try and get attention in the public domain, and it makes you wonder, doesn't it? And so I don't say a lot about it on Facebook anymore, but yeah, sorry.
No, Chill, honestly, Chill, you would be amazed how many people have drawn strength off your strength and what you've been through.
Well, I am one stubborn old fool, believe you me. And, I've probably, started doing things again, stuff that I should never have. But I just cannot see the point in sitting there and accepting shit when you don't need to accept it. When your strength of mind makes you carry on, and and these guys here. Yeah, everyone at Fox. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to thank them, and I will include Steve Morgan and Kev Knight at Mainline Base. I've got no way of thanking them for what they've done for me over the past few years, and I'm just so proud to be part of such an incredible setup with incredible people.
So it's got a bit heavy, so I'm going to just try and lighten the mood.
Yeah, please, thank you. Cool.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with Snog, Marry, Avoid. Jesus,
where is this going?
So I've been working on my own version from a carp fishing point of view that I'd like, as we're dedicating this podcast to yourself, for you to partake in. So between Dean, Harry, myself and Scott, you need to pick one person to catch you a PB.
Yeah.
One person to catch you a carp to save your life.
Yeah.
One person to carry your gear back to the car for you. And one person to share a swim with for a whole season.
At least it's not Snog, Marry or Avoid.
I was a bit worried on that one.
Well, I'm not going to do it all in that order. Harry, you're the youngest person here, so you're going to carry my gear back to the car. I do apologise. Time spent with you when I've been fishing has been brilliant, but you're young and healthy, and you can get my gear back to my car.
You bastard.
Oh, dear me. This is a toughie. I've known you longer than anybody else here, haven't I?
I think so, yes. Yeah, unfortunately for you.
I think I've borne it well. Yeah. And then, oh dear. See, the thing is, I think I'd have you to catch me a PB. Oh. Yeah, because I know that it wouldn't be a big round carp with no scales and just got some fins on it. Because I know what your intentions are in fishing, so I know that it would be a very special fish. And
I'm glad I haven't got your life in my hands either. Thank you. I need one of these two. And let's be honest, you're not getting Dean to catch you a fish to save your life. So
what have I got left to save my life?
Yeah, you've got somebody to catch you a carp to save your life, and somebody to spend a season with in your swim.
I cook well. I can do the cooking. Scott will catch you a fish. I'll feed you.
He's just going to take a multi-pack of barbecue beef hula hoops.
Yeah. I didn't ever think it would come to this, but this is no rudeness to you.
No, man.
I would have, and we talked about it in the last programme. I wish you, or tell you something you do to improve your fishing, and. In the limited time that Scott goes fishing, he always catches something, and a lot of the times it's not just catch something; they're special fish too. So Scott would definitely save my life, no doubt about that. And Dean,
we'll go to the bird.
Your life is about to plummet massively into a deep hole of hell.
Chill. I promise I'd recast. Yeah.
You don't need to. You've only got to catch one.
We only got to catch one.
Well,
it might not be the bream.
He's had a bream. It's a bream or
Yeah. After bream, we'll recast.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we'll leave it there. We'll leave it there. So sorry, I didn't want to wish.
it'd be an honour
being
to
with me. Yeah,
divvy up
no,
with you, mate.
I didn't want to wish that on people that I've known for so many years. I haven't known you that long, Dean. So
you're good, man.
unfortunately, you're the man that gets the most
person who's most wounded is
insufferable.
Harry.
We just used him for his years, and that's it.
It's years.
Yeah.
It's years. You know, I mean, yeah.
Even I'm getting on.
You are, and that frightens me. Do you know what I mean? I think about my.
You would have first met me when I was 21.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, 49?
Yeah, 35 now.
35.
Yeah.
Jeez. Can I ask you how old you are, Louis? Do you mind?
Yeah, no,
You can always lie.
just recently turned 28.
That's BS. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll have the real one this time.
40 years old, and I think I met you when I was 21, so 19 years. Well, 20 years it will be, because I'm 41 this year. It'll be our 20th anniversary.
Oh, bless
Get
you.
anything.
Bless you. How old are you? Oh, can I ask you?
Jeez, that's...
You should never ask a lady how old they are. What do you mean, oh jeez? I'm 48, mate.
48. You're so young.
Up at
How old
40.
are you, Dean?
45 this year. In a
Oh,
few months.
God, so young. Wish I was 45. God, I was a maniac even then. But anyway, I'm all right. No, you got any more there?
There is a few more, to be fair.
We've got time for it.
Should we wrap it?
I think we need to wrap it up.
I
To be
think
fair,
you
we can talk
Need to wrap
all
it.
day. There is so many people who want to ask you questions, Chilly, but
Bless their hearts. I love them all. I get such wonderful feedback on my, I don't understand Instagramification and all that rubbish. But it does my nutting. But the thing that I do love is the messages that I get, and I get a fair few of them. And I have never received anything that is other than courteous and yeah, a lot of they say about inspiration with the things that have happened to me and with Lynn. Then they've provided me with enough information to sink a battleship. So thank you to everybody.
No, mate, thank you. Guys, I just want to say, obviously, some of these questions did come from the syndicate. If you want to get involved and be a part of future podcasts and put in questions to the likes of Chilly and Lewis, Harry and Scott and the Fox team in general, get over, become a member on the syndicate, which is Fox's official community group. We'll add you as a member and then you'll be part of it all. I just want to say, Chilly, a massive, huge, heartfelt thank you. It was a great insight to your life and your mind, mate. And I think I speak for everyone here. It's a massive thank you for doing that.
Yeah. Cheers, mate.
Cheers, Joe.
Absolute ledge.
Cheers, brothers.
It was amazing. So, guys, just once again, thank you ever so much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you on the next one.